My name is Thomas Pesquet, and I'm a mission specialist for NASA's SpaceX Crew-2 mission to the International Space Station. So Crew-2 mission is a mission to the International Space Station. We're going to launch from Florida on a US-developed spacecraft that's called Crew Dragon, and it's going to take us to the space station for 6 months of research, of experiments, scientific experiments, and then we'll come back to Earth. So we're going to launch from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Falcon 9 rocket, 7 meters high. Crew Dragon is our spacecraft on top, and it's going to launch us into a roughly 200 kilometers altitude orbit. And then we're going to catch up with the space station. We're going to do a rendezvous, which is going to fly around the space station in a line, and then dock, open the hatches, and then we'll be on board. And that's the main job of the Crew Dragon spacecraft, is to take us from the insertion orbit all the way to the space station in safety. On board the Crew Dragon, our role as a mission specialist, there's 2 of them. Everything that's manual is in our ballpark. So if we have to open a hatch, if we have to use the emergency equipment, if we have to open or close valves, if we have to manage the cargo and the stowage, all this is going to be on us. And the pilot and commanders are going to manage the flight from the front seats through the big screens. So the training has been quite a ride. You learn, there's a lot of academics, so you need to know the spacecraft, you need to know all the systems to be able to fix them, to understand how they work. And then you go into the more practical part. You train in the sim, then you train on your spacesuit, and then you train with the scenarios from benign to more and more difficult. And at the end, you really have to, react to a fire, a launch abort, and all the contingency that could happen and that you have to be prepared for. So on the space station, we do mostly 2 things. The space station, to me, it's a step for exploration. So we're preparing the next steps that are going to take us, to the moon and to Mars. And it's being prepared on the space station. We prepare the technologies, the science, and etc. And then at the same time, we're using the space station as an orbiting laboratory. So every day you do research that you couldn't be doing on the ground because those phenomena that we're looking at are masked by gravity. And we're going to use this to feed the results in the laboratories and to try to have discoveries and advancements for technology and science on Earth useful to the people. Also, the training is so diverse. I mean, the International Space Station, you have to be able to fix everything. Of course, with a lot of help from the ground, but whether it be a broken pipe, whether it be electronics, whether it be anything, communication system, navigation system, you have to know everything. So it takes a lot of time just to be familiar with all the systems. And then the purpose of the space station is science. So you have to be prepared for the science experiments. You have to meet the scientists, understand what they're looking for, use the hardware, be familiar with the procedure. Sometimes yourself, you're a subject, you're a guinea pig on those experiments. So it takes a lot of time, and you have to prepare for the spacewalks. It's been really busy, but it's been good, and I think we're ready to launch. I think the most difficult aspect of astronaut training is it's so diverse, you do so much. You come from a Russian class, then you go 2 hours to the gym, and then you're in a spacesuit, and then the next day you have to, look at a very complex medical experiment, and then you have to fix, the communication systems on the space station. So there's such a huge amount of knowledge, and then you go from one discipline to the next, and that's what, to me, makes it the most challenging. So the training flows are very different. First of all, this one is much shorter because there's so much that I'm lucky enough to remember from the first mission, because those missions are kind of close in time. So I only have to refresh my knowledge, maybe learn some new things, but like the core of the knowledge is already there from the first mission. So I've been lucky. And then the big difference is the vehicle. I mean, Soyuz on the Russian side it took me a lot of time, a lot of weeks in Russia to get familiar as a co-pilot, and it's all been replaced by fewer weeks in SpaceX because the system is more automatic, and so the crew is maybe less involved in the flight. So much more condensed, much more packed. I was going to say it's like a sprint compared to a marathon, but let's say it's a marathon that you run really fast compared to a marathon that you run at a marathon pace. Yeah, so launch day, you're gonna wake up. So it could be in the middle of the night, could be at any time depending on the launch time. And then you're gonna get yourself ready. You're gonna be checked medically. There's a few traditions at the Cape that you have to go through, and then your doctor is gonna come with you. You're gonna get a briefing. You're gonna say goodbye to everyone. You're gonna be suited up in the suit room, and then you're gonna wave to friends and family. Hop on the Teslas, be driven to the launch pad. approximately 2 hours and a half, 3 hours before launch. And then you do all the final checks, fueling the rockets, do everything that you have to do, and just wait for the countdown. And I think this is going to be a great time. I think you try to think, did I really do everything that I had to do before, leaving? Did I leave the gas on, or that kind of question? You want to be ready for a 6-month mission. Your life must be in order. If you want to perform well on a 6-month mission away from home. So you think about this, and then you find yourself in a familiar environment because you've trained so much. I mean, the capsule looks exactly like the simulator, so you've been in that environment a million times. You've been in the suit a million times, so it's very, very familiar. It feels just like home, and I think that's what helps reducing the stress levels and make you ready for launch. Yeah, that part was definitely the new part, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I was looking forward to that mission so much, because something was going to be different. And I wasn't disappointed. It was just great. I think the technical level that those guys are at is very impressive. And the pace at which they're going, and their attitude, and they're just everybody's so dynamic, so enthusiastic. It's been a pleasure. You give some feedback on a Tuesday, you come back on a Wednesday morning, and it's been implemented. I mean, it's that fast, and at the same time, not sacrificing safety or not cutting margins or anything. So I've really enjoyed every single trip that I had to Hawthorne and SpaceX, and I really enjoy flying on their vehicle. Shane, I was lucky enough. I spent 4 months and a half on space station with Shane. We overlapped quite a bit. We didn't know each other that well at the time, but we really learned to know each other, and now I consider him a really close friend and an example for me. I look up to him very much. So I know this is going to be great because we've had a great time already together. I've spent 9 days underwater with Aki on the NASA NEMO mission off the coast of Florida, and I've done some other trainings with him, and I know we get along great. We have the same sense of humor. And finally, the only missing piece was Megan, and she completes the puzzle so well. I mean, Megan is so funny and so smart that I know maybe everybody says that, but I mean it dearly. I was really, really, really lucky to get those guys as crewmates, and we'll meet up with some Russian crew members, Oleg, that I flew with the first time. So it's kind of a family reunion for me. It can only be good. I think it's one of the big achievements, and it's too often, I think, overlooked of the space program, is to bring people together. It's purely amazing to think that we've put those modules together in space. They've never seen each other on the ground. They've been built by Japanese engineers speaking Japanese, Italians speaking French with Germans in Europe, and people over here in the US, and the Russians and everywhere. So it's really very, very impressive to me that we make this work, and that's what makes us go. In the future, I think our programs are going to be more and more ambitious, lofty goals. Getting to Mars, this is not easy. So we're going to need more than just one country. No single country in the world can do it on its own. So I think it's the partnership that takes us forward. So it makes things more complicated. Yeah, we don't speak the same language. We don't have the same priorities all the time, but you have to deal with it, because in the end, it makes you better. It makes you achieve more. And I think that's the path we're in. The space station has paved the way, but Artemis is going to be the same, and every future big space program is going to have to follow the same path. That is true. I remember as a kid, everybody's an interest, but mine was space shuttles and planes, and I had the posters in my room, the complete kit. And then whenever I had the chance, I was trying to learn a little bit more. And so I went into math and physics, and then I became an engineer. I went into aerospace. It seemed natural at the time. And then after I was an engineer for a few years, I worked for the French Space Agency in Toulouse, in the south of France. And then I got a chance to become a pilot, which was kind of another piece of the big Lego that I was trying to build to achieve my dream. And I became a pilot, and I was really happy. I was a private pilot before, flying small planes, became a professional pilot. And then after a while, there was an astronaut selection. I was just lucky enough to have the right age. We have an astronaut selection every 10 to 15 years in Europe, so you have to be at the right place at the right time. And I was there, and then I didn't think it was going to happen, but I passed all the selections, and I made it. So really, it's been a dream. I've been so lucky. But if I would have pictured it when I was a kid, I couldn't have pictured it any better than what really happened. caves is actually pretty cool. It's the idea is, okay, we're gonna send these people into space. It's a hostile environment. They're gonna lose, their references. Things are gonna be different. There's gonna be some stressors. How can we replicate that on Earth? And we found that caving is actually a really good analog. So you put people on the ground, they lose time reference. There's a very three-dimensional environment. It's a kind of a high-risk environment. It's like mountaineering. You can fall, you can hurt yourself. And you can do exploration, you can do science. Some scientists actually spend their lives in caves trying to figure out natural phenomena or the fauna or anything else. So ESA put together this program to train astronauts, and they just send them for 9-10 days at a time on an exploration journey in a world that they've never been in, and it's hugely beneficial. Our launch was just amazing. So it's very emotional because you say goodbye to your friends and family. They came all the way, to the middle of nowhere in Kazakhstan. It's minus something, it's less than 0 Fahrenheit, minus 30 degrees weather, and it's in the middle of the night, so you wave goodbye, you get to the rocket, and I remember climbing on the elevator, and it felt like it took forever to go to the top. Soyuz is 53 meters high, so it's a bit shorter than the Dragon, but the elevator ride, every time I thought, now we've arrived, but no, there was still more to go. I was like, okay, it's still going, it's really high, and then we're still going. I was like, okay, it's really high now, and then I had the feeling that this rocket was just so tall. And then you get in, you're being strapped into it, and they close all the hatches on you, which really feels like in a submarine. There's big metal hatches, bling, and then you're strapped. You can't be claustrophobic because that would be horrible. And then you do everything you have to do. And suddenly it's very, very quiet. You feel the rocket humming, there's the wind, nobody's talking on the radio, everybody's very calm. And I think you're like a baby in the womb, pretty much. You're in that fetal position, you're waiting for the rocket to launch. And then you kind of shake hands with your crewmates, you do the last steps that you have to do, and then the rocket launches, and then suddenly it's just the most exhilarating ride ever. And it's pushing. The acceleration is, I think, 2 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers, which is faster than the fastest race car there is on the ground. Except they do it for like 10 seconds, maybe at the most. You do it for more than 8 minutes. So you keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and going faster and faster and faster. It never stops, and you're stuck in your seat. And then when the stages transition, blam, you're being slammed forward, and then the second stage kicks in, and you're being shot again into space, and the acceleration starts again. So it's completely amazing. And then I remember Peggy told me before the launch, she said, your next, we were watching the sunrise the day before, she told me the next sunrise, you're going to be flying towards it. And she's right, because in space, you're flying to the sunny side of the Earth, so the sunrise is always in front of you, because it's you flying towards it. And so I remember my first sunrise in front of the vehicle, and then we were over the Pacific, and we were in space, and it was magical. Yeah, I mean, everything that's the big hitters is always the day you do an EVA, the risk factor is going to increase dramatically, because you're going to put yourself outside of the space station. You're protected by your spacesuit, but it's still, you're being exposed to a harsh environment, outside the walls of the space station. So it's always a big deal. You always prepare it very meticulously, very thoroughly, and then once you go out, just your adrenaline is very high, and you're trying to not make mistakes and trying to do a good job. And it's also physically challenging, because you're going to be for 6-7 hours fighting against that spacesuit, because that spacesuit is inflated with air for you to be able to breathe, which means it's going to resist your movement. So you're fighting against it. And after an EVA, it's like you've been beat up. I was doing judo when I was a kid. It's like an entire day of doing judo and fighting against other kids. So those are huge, big memories that you have. But really also sometimes the small things, like the fun that you could have. I remember putting Peggy in a big bag and bringing the big bag over to the Russian segment, telling them, hey guys, we have some food and drinks for you, and I was Peggy in the bag. It was kind of silly, but it makes for good memories, and those memories stay with you forever.
Now, I know you have a saxophone, I believe, waiting for you on the International Space Station.
That is true. I've had it sent It was sent by my partner and in cooperation with NASA, kind of in my birthday time frame, and I was not aware of it. I knew there was a chance, and then I lost track, and then suddenly it kind of showed up for my birthday, so it was actually a really nice birthday present, and then I played it a little bit throughout the mission. And instead of bringing it back with me, I said, hey, why not leaving it up there for, I don't know, a year or two to see what happens. And I was lucky enough to be selected to another mission again, so now it's waiting for me up there. I'm gonna play it again for sure. It's a good thing to do on the Sundays. My crewmates might disagree because I lack the talent to really entertain them, but it's okay. They'll bear with me. But I think after the mission I'll bring it back, because nowadays stowage is at a premium on board the ISS. There's so many items, so much stuff up there that we're being asked to clean up after ourselves if we can. Yeah, that's true. I think it's been it's for us, it's part of the job because you have this unbelievable luck. I mean, you've earned it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you've worked your entire life for this. You've made a lot of sacrifices, so it hasn't been given to you, but it doesn't mean you're not lucky. And so I think in a way, you need to give back, share it. And I think about the kid that I was, I would have been so thrilled to be able to follow an astronaut's journey, in my own language, because we all speak English, but everybody has a home language back home. If you want to talk to kids, then you have to talk to them in their native language. So just sharing that journey and taking people along, it's been really very rewarding to me. I didn't expect it, but I grew really fond of it, and it gives you a lot of energy as well, because it kind of feeds your passion, because you see that people look at the space station, they're amazed, that they look at what we're doing, they're just blown away if you take the time to really explain and to really show them, and in turns a very virtuous circle, because it fuels you. So I'm looking forward to doing it again. It's a lot of extra work, don't get me wrong. This happens after your day of work is over on the space station. So that's it's an extra burden that you put on yourself. But I think it's worth the effort, because if you look at how kids look at you and look at space after your mission, that's the reward. Yeah, so I was, as you can imagine, as a Frenchman, I was going to be stripped of my citizenship if I was not going to bring some French food and French cuisine on board. And it's been a tradition, really, since the 90s and even the 80s. The first French mission was in 82. And there's always been special dishes being prepared by chefs or regular cooks for the space station. So, of course, this mission is no exception. I have two sets of 3 dishes that have been prepared for me. There'll be crepes in dessert, there'll be bœuf bourguignon as a main dish, there'll be cake, there'll be a little bit of everything, and I'm looking forward to not just eating this for myself, but more like sharing it with the entire crew. Like once in a while I'll be in charge, maybe there's a birthday or something to celebrate, and I'll be in charge of providing a French dinner on board the ISS. Yeah, that's right. I was the first time. I always had this constant, in my free time, right, this constant to-do list in the back of my head, because I wanted to do, it might have been my only mission in my entire life, so I want to make the most of it, take pictures of everything. Every place I've been to on Earth I was trying to take a picture of. I wanted to have videos of everything we would be doing on board the space station. I've spent a lot of time, and I wanted to call all of my friends and family, all of them, because you never know, if I'm not going back, then I've missed a chance. So I was always constantly busy doing things, and it was good. It's good because it made the mission very productive. It made people happy, I guess, I hope. But it was a lot of work for me. So this time, of course, I'm still trying to do the same, but I know I'm going to take some time just for me, doing nothing. Like on a Sunday, go to the cupola, just look out the window, right? Don't even try to take a picture, because if you try to take a picture, you won't have a memory. Instead of a picture, make a memory for yourself. So I'm going to try to do this, maybe take it easy, maybe try to soak it in a bit more than what I did, and not trying to be a busy bee all the time, always doing something, but kind of taking time for me, some Thomas time on board the space station once in a while on a Sunday, and try to come back with maybe a bit less pictures, but a bit more memories. Yeah, folks might be worried about me, and there's a lot of people, it was never, I don't think it was expected, it's never expected, but people were kind of surprised them, like, you're going to space, and then they had a hard time realizing that, you know, a childhood friend or a cousin or whatever was going to go to space. And I had a hard time realizing myself, I guess. And so they looked at it, but now they know, now they're more aware, now they've seen it. I'm not saying it's routine, but they know what I'm going again. They know what it looks like. So I think they'll be less kind of explaining, less of trying to cover that. And maybe more enjoying itself, right? Maybe when I call somebody the next time, instead of being hugely surprised and very excited, there'll be more actual talking happening. So I'm looking forward to this. But yeah, it's still risky. Even though my parents, my family, they've been at the launch. It was hugely impressive the first time. I was not there to see them because I was in the rocket. That's actually the least impressive seat in the house, because you don't see the flames, you don't see anything. It just vibrates, but it looks like the same simulator as always, only vibrating. But I know they were hugely impressed. I'm hoping they'll be less impressed, but I think the best you can do to prepare them is to take them, see the rocket and see the people. It's hugely important to see the people behind the rocket, because the rocket is a huge flamey beast. It's very impressive. But it's being made by normal, nice people like you and me. So just for my parents to meet the people, meet the engineers, meet the instructors, the people at NASA, the people at other space agencies, and realizing that it's a very humane business, that everybody is a normal person, everybody is values, everybody is nice. It kind of made a huge, big difference for them. So I'm hoping to have them have the same experience this time. Yeah, it's actually absolutely mind-blowing, and you cannot, I mean, you can talk about it, but you have to see it to believe it, because it's so many people, and each and every one of them has to do the right thing, right? And each and every one of them is a critical part in the chain, and you're just the last link of that chain. You might be the most visible because you're on TV, but you might not even be the most important. But the fact that those people bring something to the table, do their part, work together, no matter where they're at, no matter where they're from, is actually amazing to me. And it actually makes me sleep better at night, because I know I've met these people, I've seen what they're capable of, I've been hugely impressed everywhere I've been in the space program, and I know we're taken care of. So I know everybody's going to do their part, and I know we're going to be safe just because I've met those people, and I'm thankful. Yeah, I think being the first on the Crew Dragon is good. It also means that it's not an entirely smooth process at that time, because it's new and you're blazing the trail. So obviously things have been a couple challenges to be solved. But I think, to me, what's more important is kind of not being the last on a European on the Crew Dragon, right? It's a partnership. It's supposed to last. It's supposed to go long in time, not just happen once. And actually that's what's happening. It's already lined up behind me. I got colleagues that have been assigned to flights. They're going to be on subsequent USCV, US commercial vehicle flights after me, and that's going to keep going, and then it's going to move on to Artemis flight. So I think what it shows is that Europe is here as a partner, working hand in hand with NASA. It's been going on for a lot of time, and it's going to keep going in the future. So I'm one element of this, but being the first is good. Not being the last is even better.